The last step in the model is post-choice behavior. This is when the consumer uses the product. It's consumption, whatever that may be. Whether they eat it, smoke it, drink it, wear it, drive it, throw it, put it away, bury it, who knows. But they use the product for its intended purposes. There are two main important ideas that marketers like to pay attention to concerning consumer behavior. The first is satisfaction. All right? Obviously, marketers want their customers to be satisfied. Customers that have high levels of satisfaction are more likely to purchase the brand again. Now, how do we tell if we're satisfied? Well, it's the comparison, the judgment upon the difference of our expectations of what was going to happen when we consume the brand and how the brand actually performs our experience. Now, when the performance of the brand is greater than the expectations, we tend to be happy, sometimes even joyous. Think about the times when you didn't expect very much, but you got a lot. You feel really happy, elated, because you got something that you didn't bargain for and it was free, so to speak. Now, when performance and expectations are equal, they line up, we also often feel very content. We're satisfied. And then part of that is that we feel good because we are able to predict what the brand would do. In other words, we have a good grasp on reality because our expectations, not only they were met, but they were met and we predicted them. Now, when performance is poorer or worse than expectations, well, obviously we feel dissatisfied. And dissatisfaction can probably have two different emotional tones. One is disappointment, all right? And disappointment is a low energy, disappointing, inward type of emotion. Perhaps in an effort to save money, I bought cheaper food than we would normally buy when we have guests over. And the food doesn't taste very good. I'm probably going to be disappointed because I'm going to blame myself. That I was the cause of the poor performance. I should have done what I usually do, but in order to save money, I didn't. So I'm going to be disappointed. Now, the other one is anger, right? Anger is a emotion that brings about activity and gives us energy, all right? So when we're angry, or we experience anger, it's because we feel things are inequitable. They're not fair. We did our fair share of the bargain. We paid our money. We believed what the marketer said, okay, or we believed our expectations. And now the brand doesn't perform, and it's not our fault. That's the key thing. Disappointment, it's our fault. Anger, it's the brand's fault, or at least it's not my fault. And when we're angry, we're much more likely to act out. We're much more likely to try to return the product. We're going to complain to other people. We'll get on social media. We'll go to great lengths, all right, because it's not fair. All right, and remember, only about 20% of the dissatisfied customers take action. They're probably pretty close to angry. 80% of dissatisfied customers don't tell you. They just don't come back. The next topic is going to be choice and post-choice evaluation. So for choice, it means we're going to go purchase, we're going to acquire the brand through exchange. In other words, consumers are going to execute their plans, all right? They've gone through search and then evaluation of alternatives, selected one that they want, and then they're going to actually go out and do that. Now, the question that makes this stage necessary is, why don't we always buy what we set out for? What can happen? Well, there's many things. First of all, the brand could be out of stock. There might be a sale or promotion on a different brand that we didn't know about. We might end up talking to a salesperson or another customer who steers us in another direction by either redefining the problem we have, what we're trying to solve, or giving us some additional information that we didn't know when we were considering the evaluation of the different alternatives. We might be under time pressure. We may run out of time. We may not have time to get to the store, okay, to buy the product that we want. And then again, we may end up in a social environment where that's unexpected. We may be going to buy some inexpensive products for ourselves, for food or alcohol, but we run into a friend or somebody we want to impress, and we end up changing the brand that we want. Marketers also work hard to change our plans using priming, point of purchase displays, getting us to shop for more things by having pleasant sound and good atmospherics in the store, and using salespeople. So many times we have a plan, we've made up our mind what we want, but we end up with a different brand. The last step in the model is post-choice behavior. This is when the consumer uses the product. It's consumption, whatever that may be, whether they eat it, smoke it, drink it, wear it, drive it, throw it, put it away, bury it, who knows. But they use the product for its intended purposes. There are two main important ideas that marketers like to pay attention to concerning consumer behavior. The first is satisfaction. All right? Obviously, marketers want their customers to be satisfied. Customers that have high levels of satisfaction are more likely to purchase the brand again. Now, how do we tell if we're satisfied? Well, it's the comparison, the judgment upon the difference of our expectations of what was going to happen when we consume the brand and how the brand actually performs our experience. Now, when the performance of the brand is greater than the expectations, we tend to be happy, sometimes even joyous. Think about the times when you didn't expect very much, but you got a lot. You feel really happy, elated, because you got something that you didn't bargain for and it was free, so to speak. Now, when performance and expectations are equal, they line up, we also often feel very content. We're satisfied. And then part of that is that we feel good because we are able to predict what the brand would do. In other words, we have a good grasp on reality because our expectations, not only they were met, but they were met and we predicted them. Now, when performance is poorer or worse than expectations, well, obviously we feel dissatisfied. And dissatisfaction can probably have two different emotional tones. One is disappointment, all right? And disappointment is a low energy, disappointing, inward type of emotion. Perhaps in an effort to save money, I bought cheaper food than we would normally buy when we have guests over. And the food doesn't taste very good. I'm probably going to be disappointed because I'm going to blame myself. That I was the cause of the poor performance. I should have done what I usually do, but in order to save money, I didn't. So I'm going to be disappointed. Now, the other one is anger, right? Anger is a emotion that brings about activity and gives us energy, right? So when we're angry, or we experience anger, it's because we feel things are inequitable. They're not fair. We did our fair share of the bargain. We paid our money. We believed what the marketer said, okay, or we believed our expectations. And now the brand doesn't perform, and it's not our fault. That's the key thing. Disappointment, it's our fault. Anger, it's the brand's fault, or at least it's not my fault. And when we're angry, we're much more likely to act out. We're much more likely to try to return the product. We're going to complain to other people. We'll get on social media. We'll go to great lengths, all right, because it's not fair. All right, and remember, only about 20% of the dissatisfied customers take action. They're probably pretty close to angry. 80% of dissatisfied customers don't tell you. They just don't come back. Where do our expectations come from? Well, certainly they come from our past experiences with the brand or similar brands. They also come from indirect experience. We listen to, observe, talk to, friends, family, and other consumers when they're using the brands that we're considering and the ones that we've purchased. Certainly marketers making claims about their brands influence us and what competitors say about the brand we just used. And then again, there's also a large source of third-party information out there. Public relations, blogs, magazines, review websites, etc. So marketers can't really control expectations. Obviously, for marketers, you don't want to set low expectations, because expectations are really a consumer's prediction of what will happen. So low expectations mean little or no benefits. Nobody wants to buy a brand like that. Accurate expectations are what everybody strives for, because then you should get people satisfied, all right? And there's a good chance you may even delight people. Marketers have to be careful not to create too high expectations, because if expectations are much higher than performance, even if the performance of the brand is good, consumers will still feel somewhat underwhelmed. They won't be particularly satisfied. Imagine that you decide to eat at a restaurant that one of your friends said was the very best barbecue place that he or she had ever been to. By far the best barbecue place. High ratings everywhere, in every type of publication. And then you go to eat there. And you eat the food. It's good. It's not bad barbecue. It's certainly worth the price. But after your experience, it's not the best barbecue you ever had. So how do you feel in terms of satisfaction? You probably feel okay, right? Even though you ate some really good food, it didn't live up to the expectations. So to a large degree, satisfaction and our perception of the brand is tied to our expectations and how the performance compares to that. On the other hand, you could go to a restaurant that you've never been to before. It looks like a hole in the wall. You don't expect very much. You just hope not to get food poisoning. And you go and they serve you barbecue and it's great. It may not be the best barbecue you ever had, but it's really good. You're going to be really satisfied. You'll probably go tell some of your friends, right? Because it was much better than your expectations. It may not have been as good barbecue as the other place that you went to where everybody said it was the best, but you're going to feel better about it. So that's why expectations are important, and also because there's so many influences, they're difficult to manage. The next topic in post-choice behavior is cognitive dissonance. Right? And cognitive dissonance comes from the idea that, hey, cognitive, it means we're thinking, and dissonance is kind of two things that don't go together. If you were playing the piano and you hit the keys and there were some dissonant sounds, it'd be things that clash. We know dissonance more as post-purchase regret or buyer's remorse. All right? It's after we make, a decision, a lot of times we think, oh my God, did I do the right thing? Buyer's remorse. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I can't believe that. So it's some inner tension that we have caused by, this inconsistency between what we did. I just bought this. I just signed up for this. I just enlisted in this. Okay? And, what we think of ourselves, whether it's our self-concept or some type of attitude that we have, right? A lot of times it comes from lack of confidence or knowledge. But that's how we feel. It's totally natural. It's totally normal, right? And you can feel dissonance as you make a purchase or through that process. You know what it's like when you have to make a big decision and you're not sure, and you hem and you haw, and sometimes you're saying, yes, it's the right thing, and then a minute later you're saying, no, it's stupid, I shouldn't do that. That's dissonance, okay? And we don't want to have inconsistency between our behavior and our perception of ourselves or our attitudes. We'll always prefer consistency with everything. So how do we deal with dissonance? Well, one of the main things we do is, since we have this bad feeling that we may have done the wrong thing, we try to find, evidence that we did the right thing. we seek confirmation that we did the right thing. In the past, research has shown that consumers spend a lot more time searching about a brand they just bought than searching before they buy the brand. Why? Because they want to make sure they made a good decision. They need to feel better. They're experiencing some dissonance. So we seek positive information about the brand we selected. Sometimes we seek negative information about the brands we didn't select. Well, the one thing I think I got's okay, and that other one, it wouldn't have worked too well anyway. If it's really bothering us, another thing we can do is minimize the importance of the decision. Well, it's not really that big a deal. The other thing is that we rationalize our decision if we can't return the brand. So, of course, yes, we can get rid of dissonance by returning the brand, getting our money back. But sometimes, after we sign a contract for a loan, buy a house, a car, paint our house a certain color, cut our hair, all that kind of stuff, we can't go back, all right? So what do we do then? So basically what happens is, if we can't change our behavior, if we can't change what happened, okay, we change our attitude. So even if the brand doesn't work exactly the way we want, we'll often overstate how much we like a brand. We'll change our attitude to be more positive. It's also called confirmation bias. That we want this to confirm that we made a good decision, so now we become a big proponent. And even if it doesn't work quite the way we like it, we'll say, well, that's okay, I kind of like it this way. We need to rationalize the decision to make dissonance go away, because it's an uncomfortable feeling, right, that we screwed. What's the implication for marketers? That first of all, in any type of decision with their brand, if consumers are likely to feel dissonance while making the decision or afterwards, that they need to reassure them that they're making the right decision. They need to remove the dissonance by providing confirmation that they're making the right decision. They need to provide evidence that helps support their decision. It's welcome to the family. 80 million other people have made the same decision. Welcome to becoming part of the #1 brand in the country, the leading brand, the fastest growing brand. Whatever it is, give people something that they can use to reduce their dissonance. Now, under what factors are we likely to experience dissonance? There are 4 basic factors. Another way to think about dissonance that helps one kind of realize these factors is, think about getting cold feet before you get married. Cold feet is when a bride or a groom on their wedding day, maybe minutes before they go to the altar and tie the knot, question whether they're doing the right thing. They're experiencing dissonance. So obviously, one factor is the level of involvement. We're more likely to feel dissonance when there's high involvement and lots of perceived risk. It's just really important. It's important to us. What's at risk, whether it's social or safety or performance or financial, is important to us. So it's pretty natural for us to wonder if we're making the right decision. Another factor, kind of similar to importance, is the idea of commitment. Certainly, in a marriage, till death do us part. That's kind of scary, even though the divorce rate's around 50%. In marketing, it comes to the terms with contracts and obligations, purchases, and actions that can't be reversed. If you decide to get your hair cut really short, you may have dissonance over that, either while it's happening, before it happens, or afterwards, because you can't go backwards. If you decide to buy some new furniture that's a totally different color, you usually can't return furniture. So now you're stuck with that. You made a commitment. So anytime you take a path, make a commitment that limits your future options, you're likely to feel dissonance. Another factor is when the alternatives in your consideration set are all attractive. What it means is it makes it tough to make a decision. So if you're choosing between a BMW, a Lexus, an Audi, an Acura, a Mercedes, a whole bunch of luxury cars, you may feel dissonance while you make the decision and afterwards. And in hindsight, or if you step outside of the decision, it's kind of silly because you can't make a bad decision. All right? If you're choosing between a Mercedes and a Chevy and a Fiat, well, that's pretty obvious. There's no dissonance when when the decision's a no-brainer. When one alternative is clearly better than the rest, you won't have dissonance. Similarly, if the alternatives are attractive but difficult to compare, you're also going to feel dissonance. So let's say it's spring break, and one of your friends says, "Hey, my family's going to Hawaii. Why don't you come? Lay on the beach, see the big waves, go to a tropical place like Hawaii." Another one of your friends says, "Hey, my parents are going to France, and then we're going to Germany and Italy. Why don't you come along? Right? We'll pay for everything." So now you have a chance to go to a trip to Europe. And another friend says, "Hey, my parents are taking me shopping in New York. They're giving me a whole bunch of money, so I can give money to you, so we can have a free shopping trip, and we can go to Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue and shop at all these cool places." And the fourth friend says, "Hey, let's go skiing. I'm going to Vail, Colorado. We have extra room in our on our lodge, and I'll rent the skis for you and everything, and let's go to this really cool place to go skiing." Those are four tough decisions. Why? Because they're really hard to compare. How do you compare laying on the beach in Hawaii to shopping in New York, to visiting Paris, to skiing in Vail or Aspen, Colorado? So when they're difficult to compare and they're attractive, we're likely to feel dissonance. The final factor is when it's a voluntary decision. In other words, we make the decision on our own accord. If we're forced to do something, all right? So if our car breaks and the engine's shot and we need to buy a new car and we need to get to work or do something, we won't feel dissonance over what car we buy because we had to buy something right away. We're forced. It relieves you of any responsibility. But when you voluntarily decide to trade in your car, buy a new house, upgrade, take an expensive vacation, you're more likely to feel dissonance because nobody's making you do it. It's on your shoulders. It's your choice. And when you're making the decision, you're more likely to doubt it. So those are the four conditions when consumers are likely to feel dissonance. When it's important to them, it's high involvement. When it involves some type of commitment where they make a choice and now they can't pursue other options. When the alternatives are all attractive or difficult to compare. And lastly, when it's something that they don't have to do, they just want to do. So when it's voluntary, you change your job, right? You're going to feel dissonance about it. If you lose your job and then have to change and then get a new job, you're not likely to feel as much dissonance because you had to get a new job. So marketers need to pay attention to, the conditions under which dissonance is likely to happen.